three different, one is the fusion welding, pressure welding and friction welding. So, here basically the difference is that nature of the heat source and how we can control the heat source, or how heat can be generated to join two different or similar kind of materials. Fusion welding, definitely we apply the source of heat source in such a way that it should cross the melting point of the substrate material, so that it can fuse together, and after solidification it makes the structure. Pressure welding, simply application of the pressure or maybe application of the load is the main mechanism to do the joining of the materials. Friction welding, of course, the heat is generated in this case due to the friction. So, in friction welding normally we generally keep the friction welding the maximum temperature is below the melting point temperature. So, in that case they can be considered as a solid state welding process as well. So, these three types of welding processes, and we can see further that fusion welding processes can be classified as the homogeneous and heterogeneous welding processes. And if we see other part is the heterogeneous welding processes, that brazing and soldering. The heterogeneous welding processes means that we use the another second or third material to join the similar kind of material or two different type of material. So, in that sense it is called the heterogeneous welding processes, and in the other case the homogeneous welding processes, here we can find out that may not be necessary to using the third material, maybe two similar kind of material they can join, it's a and can form kind of homogeneous structure. Even for dissimilar materials also they can join together, but finally they can form the homogeneous structure. So, in that sense it is called the homogeneous and the heterogeneous joining processes. So, homogeneous, there are several types of welding processes. We can see that gas welding process, electro slag welding process, high beam energy and the electric arc. So, all these cases the generation of the heat mechanism are in all these cases are different, but common thing is that anyhow that when you try to join two materials, maybe there must be some amount of the heat generation should be there, so that the materials can be joined together. So, but all these cases the source of the heat are different. First case is the gas welding, simply burning the gas is the amount that actually converted the basically chemical energy and the converted to the heat energy, and that heat energy utilized to weld the materials. Then electro slag welding, also similar kind of, maybe in this case that arc can be generated, then high beam energy, also that beam means the either laser or electron beam, that is a high source of energy can be used, and for electric arc, based on the electric arc can also be used in this case. So, all these different types of the homogeneous welding processes, but in this case the heterogeneous welding processes mechanism are different from the homogeneous welding processes. So, heterogeneous processes we generally we conventionally can find out the two different types of welding process, one is the brazing and another is the soldering. So, in details we will discuss about all these processes. Now, other things we can see that electric arc welding, there are three different types of MIG welding, metal inert gas welding or gas metal arc welding. Then TIG welding, tungsten inert gas welding or gas tungsten arc welding, and shielded metal arc. Shielded metal arc welding also, that is sometimes it is called the stick welding, that most of the cases we observe that shielded metal arc welding process, and we practically we can observe in any kind of construction site that using of the these different types of the welding processes. So, that can be are categorized as the electric arc welding, because in this all these cases they produce the electric arc. So, in general that generic types can be classified of the welding and joining processes, or rather I can say that what are the, maybe you can say that rather than classification, here we can say what are the different types of welding processes here. So, in this case Fusion welding process, we see the arc, gas, power beam and resistance, that actually can be categorized as a fusion welding processes. Thermomechanical processes can be considered as the friction, flash, explosive welding process. So, in this case the not only the thermal condition, maybe some mechanical energy also required in this case, and in general that is called the thermomechanical energy utilized for all these cases, and fusion welding only heat energy or maybe thermal energy is utilized to conduct all these type of welding processes. Then mechanical joining processes. So, it is not the welding, but it is a joining process, because fasteners can be used simply joining up the two components. So, that is called the mechanical joining process, or maybe in general that is the joining processes. And solid state welding process, another generic type of welding and joining process, that is called solid state, that is adhesive, soldering and brazing can be categorized as in these terms, because in this case the temperature actually below the melting point temperature of the substrate material. So, in that sense it is called the solid state welding process. Even for friction state welding process, that is there also the mechanical stirring action as well as frictional heat generation are responsible for the welding of the material. So, that can also be categorized as the in that solid state welding process. So, point is that when we try to classify the different welding process, so we need to consider the different perspective to classify the different welding process. So, these are the one way the different types of welding process normally exist. If we see in other perspective, what we can classify the welding process. So, before that we look into that what are different types of oils we generally observe. If you first figure, if you see that there are three types of oils. The first one is the two common application are for the hard surfacing, basically surface welding, means that means it is application of the heat and making the joining of covalences of the materials is happening only over the surface. Second one is the groove welding, making a groove between the two plate, and that can be that groove is filled using some filler material. So, the primary use of the groove welds is to be complete the butt joint. So, configuration of the butt joint, because in this case two plates are flat and they are joined at the edge, and either using any filler material or not. So, that can be that also one type of joint, that is in general that is called the butt joint, but also can be considered as a groove joint if we try to make some groove before the welding of these two metals. So, another types of weld, that is also fillet weld. So, fillet weld, the configuration of the geometry or of the base metal are different in this case. If you see, although it is making the kind of T section, but one sided it is wound or filled by the welding material. So, that is called the fillet weld. So, have a triangular cross section used, and that are at 90 degree angle. So, fillet weld, it can be done over a T cross section, and the lap joint, two different metals joint, and then that can be welded using the materials, or it can edge joints. So, it can be two edges having 90 degree perpendicular, they can be joined using the fillet. So, these are the type of oils, different oils, but type of the joints can be other way. We can observe that butt joint, simply joining of the two materials over the edge, and then lap joint, when the lapping lap joint, the one plate is in over the another plate, and any one of the contact can be joined using the filler material. So, that is called, or without using the filler material, that is called the lap joint. So, here the geometric configuration of the joint are different in this case. Here if you see the T joint means that one plate is horizontal plate is there, and over which 190 degree over vertical plate are kept, and then both side can be joined or single side can be joined. That is called the T type of joint. Corner joint. So, the two plate are keeping perpendicular with each other, and that corner are joined using the welding processes. And edge joint. So, over on the edge the geometric configuration different, but over the edge the weld can be done. So, from the figure it is obvious that there are different types of oils, and there are different types of the joints we can observe practically by simply by what way we can configure the different materials, we can say different substrate materials. In that way we can find out the this is the different nature of the types or nature of the weld joints we observe in practically.